Golly, I'm hungry, I could eat a horse. Well, all right, I'll settle for a plate here which has got fried eggs, peas and beans, well, peas and chips and some bacon as well. Well, that's what I think it is. What do you think? Should I start cutting it? No, it's a soft toy for children to play with, of course, and imagine they've got a nice meal in front of them, but everything there is made of soft plush, and even that you could toss it through the air like as a habit. When I take it to children's parties, they play with it like a frisbee, just for a bit of fun. So I'm looking at toys in my collection which celebrates the world of fruit and vegetable edibles. Not edibles themselves, but they look as though they are. So let's see what there is in this range. I found amongst my many greeting cards a very nice one which I've bought quite recently actually, and several of them to people, which wishes you Ha Pea Birthday. Well, it comes in an envelope, and the card itself has got nothing on the inside. You can write your message on it, but it's a very cheerful one, and it's got a nice cheerful face on the peas as well. So a company called Knit and Pearl. So that's something to send, and I sent one just recently to a friend of mine. Ha Pea Birthday to you. And then there's a much more interesting thing which I picked up in Amsterdam, which is a whole series of postcards, or no, letters actually they were, but some of them were postcards, which you put in an envelope. And the point is, this bit at the back is just a bit of card, you write on the card, but you're also supposed to write on this, but with a special pen, which has got edible ink in it, because this is actually edible. Would you believe? This is one I'd already taken a chew out of some time ago. It was a full card, but teeth marks there and teeth marks here, it's already been half eaten. It doesn't taste them too much, but it's edible, providing when you write on it, because that ink there is, of course, is an edible dye they're using, and you must make sure when you've got a pen, it's one of those special ones which contains, and then you put it in the post and send it to someone just for a laugh. Have your birthday card and eat it. Ooh, that's a nice promise. Oh my. Quite early on in my collecting days, I came across this extraordinary innovation at the time, which is now reasonably common. This was the first launch of this extraordinary thing called the Schmuzzle Puzzle. And the idea was, this professor here had created something in which you make what they call a sort of one of those little reptilian creatures, which can be put together so everything fits together with no air gaps in it, whatever. It's called tiling. And this is the very first attempt to make a tiling thing. It has to be very precise. Look at the small example he sent with this packaging, which shows the actual puzzle pieces themselves. There we are. And a corn on the cob, that's what drew my attention to it, because it's a vegetable or fruit. And each of those pieces is exactly the same shape as the other ones, and they will fit together perfectly like this, but that's not right because the picture is all jumbled up. So you've got the difficulty of putting together a jigsaw puzzle, which you've got only the clue is what you're seeing and not the actual shape. Normally the jigsaws, you've got both the shape and does it look right to help you. There's a piece missing there from somewhere as well. This is the very first version of this, and now they're reasonably common because of the coming of laser cutting on card, which is very precise. It has to be very precise to the nearest thousandth of an inch, otherwise the pieces get in a very, very bad tangle when you try to put them together. And it's becoming a reasonably popular and fairly well-known idea now for puzzles, putting together. There are several lectures we've had at Atlanta conventions on tiling and tiling shapes, and this particular little shape, little four-legged reptilian creature, is quite a common and early one from it, and there's an example of it, and it's called a Schmuzzle Puzzle. So, but anyway, it's celebrating corn on the cob, which is one of my favourite foods, I think. Halloween we've just had recently, and this is a charming one I picked up many years ago of a pumpkin, which of course is a vegetable, and it's got a little ghost on the top that says boom. When I put my finger over the hole to stop the air leaking out, there we are, and then it'll pop up like that. Isn't that sweet? Little air pressure thing, which is popular in the 1980s. Everything's got more sophisticated now, but that was just a little air bulb. Squeeze it like that, and it's got a little hole in the thing here. If I squeeze it like that, nothing happens, but put your finger over the hole, and up it comes. So children, very young children, will take it along to a Halloween party to show their friends. Pop, 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 pop. A pumpkin with its own little ghost doing its little job. Nice. Here's a bizarre thing from Japan. They're sort of like endama peas in a way, or beans. I don't know what they are really, but they're something you're supposed to attach to your wrist or to a key fob perhaps. And when you squeeze it, out comes, squeeze it like that, out comes a bean with a face in it. Extraordinary. and it's actually got a sort of a membrane of plastic there which is holding it together like that, which is very bizarre indeed. And it's a finger fiddle, so you do that repeatedly, exercising the finger muscles there, and you've got one for each hand, and they both pop out together and come and talk to each other, I suppose, like that. Extraordinary. It feels very strange in the hand, but it's quite therapeutic in a way, because it's got softness, and yet it's quite tough to do, to make it come right there out, and you can just repeatedly do it, and it lasts a long time. I've done it many, many times, taken it to many parties, and it's still in pristine condition. Now here's something which I thought was a joke when I came across it 20, 30 years ago. It was a bar of soap, they said, metal soap. What on earth is it for? Well, apparently, if you take something like an onion and start cutting it up and then slicing it and cooking it in some way or other, or frying it, your hands get covered in the onion juice, and it gets quite a strong odour which you can't get rid of. If you put your hand under the water with soap and water, your hands are then clean, but they smell of onion. So this thing was invented. I'm not sure what the chemistry was, but my guess is that the actual smell that's impregnated into the skin probably contains enzymes which are being neutralised by metal ions on the surface of this thing here. So you put this under the tap like that, as if it's a bar of soap with water coming down like that, and that washes away the smell, and you will now smell your hands. They're not only clean, but they're odourless at the end. So you've got rid of the. So it works with cheese and with certain fish as well. But both cheeses and fish sometimes can have no scent or smell at all. But onions, you can always guarantee will have a nasty smell. So that's a very useful thing to have, an onion bar of soap to remove the smell of onions. Very unusual. This one certainly is a little more unusual because you've got a face. This is something charming. It was about 5 years ago. I came across a packets in which a British company, these ones here, was offering to sell to children little eyes that you can put onto vegetables, like those, or fruit as well. They suggested fruit on the back of them, and it contains each packet contained a whole lot of eyes, all made of sugar. It's a sort of flat sugar compound. So all you've got to do is take them off and very carefully just lick them gently onto the surface of a fruit, on a vegetable. So there's one on an onion, and here's one on a carrot. Oh, he's lost his eye. He's got one-eyed foot. Oh, the other eye's round the back. Oh, look at that. It's drifted. And there's another one here, which is a potato, of course. They don't produce mouths as well, just the eyes, which is, well, that's okay. I don't mind that. Perhaps the mouths and ears will come later on, but it's a nice thing for kids to do. And the point is, if these are put on fruit and vegetables, as I show here, you can actually eat it because it's edible. It's made of a very thin sugar compound, and the inks and dyes they use for the black is quite edible too. So it's something that's quite safe to be consumed. And the last thing to show is well, you've come across spring onions. These are one that are a bit old, past their sell-by date, I think it is, but there's a bunch of spring onions. But I wonder if you come across spring carrots. Well, it's late autumn here when I'm filming this, but we'll see about having a carrot spring. Do you think have you come across this before? Something I've had in my collection, but never got around to using. You're supposed to turn this like this, and it makes a beautiful spiral, which means I'm going to end up with a carrot spring. Oh, what a lovely idea. As I pull it out like that, you'll see it stretching. There's a carrot spring, and there's spring onions. So the two should go together, don't you think? Oh, well, I'll keep going all the way around. And of course, this is quite edible, except I haven't peeled this one, so I have to peel it first. But it's a very clever thing I picked up at the Ideal Home exhibition, about 30 years ago, and it's very well made too. And it's a clever little thing, particularly good apparently on cucumbers. But it works pretty well for carrots, and all these would decorate very nicely on a plate with spring bits to it, like that. Very nicely done. So there are a lot of fun things you can buy, which I call them toys, but they're novelties as well, all to do with vegetables and fruit. This is a nice one.